Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
This is my boomstick.
Here's Johnny.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Righteous! Righteous! Yeah!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Houston, we have a problem.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Those Film Nerds. My name is Willspalding, and as always, I am joined by the coveted, uncomparable Sam Dierberger. Sam, what's happening? What's going on?
What's going on, Will? How are we doing this week?
It's good to be back. It's good to be back. It's good to hear your sweet dulcet tones. And we should say, I don't even publish these podcasts. I just record them and then listen to them as I go to sleep. So,
I mean, that's the only way to fall asleep is to my voice.
Right.
I got a voice for radio. I have a face for it too, but mostly a voice. And yeah, it's always been a grand ambition of mine to be a radio host. I already have my recommendation. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, perfect. All right.
Wow. Tease for later in the episode. But Sam, honestly, you would be a great radio show host. You'd be like, what's that one movie you really love? Talk Radio.
Yes.
I could totally see you doing that. I mean, maybe not being a ginormous prick like that guy was, but.
Oh, I'd be a ginormous prick like that guy was.
Okay, I was gonna say, or you could do it that way. I mean, whatever. Picky.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm a big fan of any kind of talk radio, not just the movie.
Right. Agreed.
I love listening late at night to just about any kind of man talking on the airwaves. I think it's fantastic. And yeah,
just a nice deep voice.
A nice deep baritone, kind of like man, who was that? Who showed up in Hubie Halloween? One of the greatest movies ever made. I can't believe I forget.
Shaq?
Was it Shaq who made a cameo?
Yeah, but he's got a really high voice or something like that.
Yeah, but it's like a sexy female radio voice.
Right.
It's like ghouls and goblins, like
that's what we strive for. But
absolutely.
Hey, enough sidetrack and lollygagging. Sam, what are we talking about this week?
So this week we're doing something that we haven't done in more than a year. We were saying it's been a while. We're gonna do a director retrospective this week.
Yes.
Into one Mr. Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, man. PTA, he's inbound. We're gonna, for those who have listened all the way back to then, I apologize. I'm really sorry that you've gone that far. Nobody should have to sit through all that, but no, I'm kidding. We'll probably do it the same format as we did those previous times. You think?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
we
cool.
could do that.
Real quick though, Sam, I just have one little tiny industry news thing that I want to ask you about. Did you see the new Dune character posters?
I did not. Did you?
Yes. They look awesome. I don't know where. Just look up Dune character posters on the internet. I'm sure they'll be there. I'm just looking at them on an Instagram. Yeah. Just go to images or.
Ooh.
They look cool. You looking at them?
Yeah, these are pretty dope looking.
If the movie looks as good as this does, we're gonna be in for something.
Dude's name is Paul.
Such
Chalamet plays Paul.
Yes, because in my my space adventure movie about saving the universe, just I want some dude named Paul.
I mean, that's who I want saving the universe.
That's really all I had to say. Sam, I just think those look awesome. I thought it was worth noting. But if you don't have any industry news, I'm not sure if you do. We can just jump right in.
I think we should jump right in.
Okay.
Lots to talk about here.
Cool. Well, Paul Thomas Anderson, I think we can agree, one of the most wholly unique filmmakers out there. Completely normal dude. I know we've talked about him in that respect, but super weird and interesting filmmaker. Give me, without going into his first movie, just give me your general thoughts on him, Sam. Where does he kind of sit in your director pantheon? What do you think of him in general?
Well, the first thing I would say about PTA is that it's so funny because he is a wholly unique figure in modern cinema, as you said, but he's also incredibly versatile. And we might have talked about this before, but there's ways to classify directors, and I've mentioned this. The way I kind of like to classify directors is kind of like a two-axis, I guess, chart, you could say, maybe. And one of the axes on that is versatility versus kind of uniqueness, right? You think of someone like Wes Anderson. He's incredibly unique and he's incredibly stylistic is probably a better word. Like, when you're watching a Wes Anderson movie. Whereas with Paul Thomas Anderson, it's not always obvious that you're watching a PTA movie, but each of his films are so unique in their own way. He doesn't have any one signature stamp that is inherent in every single film he makes. Even though he likes to reuse a lot of the same actors, it's still they're still their own movies. They're still very much self-contained. So that's something I really appreciate about him. What were your first exposures, I guess, to PTA?
Yeah, I'm looking at his films. I'll just run through them, and then we'll break down each one of them. But Hard Eight, Magnolia, Punch Drunk Love, Boogie Night. Hard Eight, Boogie Nights, Magnolia, Punch Drunk Love. There Will Be Blood. Then it goes Master, Inherent Vice, Phantom Thread. I think my first exposure was There Will Be Blood, and thought, I didn't really think, who's Paul Thomas Anderson? I more thought, man, this is a great movie. Is what I thought. Super well made on every technical level. I remember thinking it's kind of a shame that this was made in the same year that No Country was, because you'd like that movie to be a Best Picture as well. Right. But yeah, and then I watched Boogie Nights next, and essentially completely dived into his filmography after that. Probably watched the rest of them shortly after. And yeah, I've always said that Tarantino, or from basically my entire being a film nerd, that entire period, I've always said Tarantino is my favorite director. Till like a couple months ago, 6 months ago, when I've gone back and seen more directors and their work, and PTA is one of those guys that broke that down, and I now say I don't have a favorite director because I just there's too many that I enjoy, him being one. And yeah, like you said, completely versatile. I think that's the best word to describe PTA is versatile, because he can do everything. He can do anything, from a silly Adam Sandler comedy that obviously turned into something else, but to Phantom Thread that is a super super unique, intense drama in a way. But that's kind of where I sit on him. Love the guy. Can't wait for his new movie. But Sam, should we start on his first film?
Yeah, well, let's talk about it.
His debut feature, excuse me, Hard Eight.
Hard Eight, man.
The first thing that's worth saying is I'm not aware of any of his short films, but his short films must have been great if he's able to get a cast as such. I mean, he's pulling Gwyneth Paltrow and Philip Baker Hall, John C. Reilly, Sam L. Jackson, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, this is a great cast. This is the first thing you noticed. And Sam, what are your thoughts on Hard Eight?
Well, yeah, I mean, about that cast initially, it's like, first of all, Samuel L. Jackson was I swear there were like 5 Samuel Jacksons during the 90s because he was just doing anything and everything, it seemed like.
He cloned himself, yeah.
He cloned himself. John C. Reilly, was still kind of starting out and really didn't even have any credit as an actor, period. It's interesting to see him in a serious piece because this was before he was even known as a comedic actor, It was before,
years before that.
Step Brothers or Talladega Nights or anything like that. So, I mean, that's pretty fascinating. Gwyneth Paltrow, when did Seven come out? Because she wasn't particularly well known yet.
Seven would have been the year before.
Okay, yeah.
This is 96.
96. Yeah, so I mean, like, they were young. I mean, and then Philip Baker Hall is kind of a veteran character actor, I suppose. He's been in everything, it seems.
Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, it's a fascinating cast to put together. And obviously Philip Seymour Hoffman is a reoccurring motif in Paul Thomas Anderson's movies. One of his favorite actors to use, and really you can kind of credit PTA for bringing Philip Seymour Hoffman to the forefront,
right?
To a lot of mainstream critics, I would say. PSH was obviously a very respected character actor even in the 90s, but him showing up time and time again in Anderson's movies, I think really propelled him to mainstream success, which is also something we have to thank PTA for. But on the movie itself, Hard Eight is certainly an interesting watch. It's kind of a hard movie to classify, really. It's somewhat, as far as PTA goes, for me, it's somewhat forgettable. It wasn't. It's certainly not a bad movie, and it's certainly not a great one. But yeah, I mean, it's. How do you feel about it?
I think in a vacuum, Hard Eight is a very good movie. In relation to the rest of Anderson's filmography, you're right, it is forgettable. When I hear PTA, I think Boogie Nights, There Will Be Blood, so on. Hard Eight honestly might be the last movie I think of, which is not a bad thing. I mean, his directorial debut, it's his first shot. The fact that it's even passable is great. I think it's an interesting movie in that sense. Would I revisit it often? No, I wouldn't. But you can definitely tell he knows how to make a film by just, if you went in order of his movies and watch them in order, you'd go, okay, yeah, this guy's got it. It might not be his fastball quite yet, but you can see that all of the elements are there for a great director, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm looking at my initial review of it on Letterboxd back in the day, and I said I watched it March 9th, 2020, so probably 15, 16 months ago. And I said, surprisingly, Hard Eight is much, much more of an intimate piece than one would expect. It's more of an introspective character study than anything else, which is very true. I mean, it really delves into kind of, what's the character's name? Sidney. I thought his name was Sidney. Philip Baker Hall's Sidney and John C. Reilly's John.
John?
Those two characters, it's really just kind of their psychology. It's much more of like a confining character piece,
Yeah, you're right. It's a good character study, and definitely built on those two's oddly enough pretty good chemistry. Hard Eight is. And yeah, you're right. It's worth mentioning Philip Seymour Hoffman too. He's really, really funny in this movie as just kind of this dude at a casino. And also interesting, Philip Seymour Hoffman, he's in 5 of the 8 Paul Thomas Anderson movies, and really 5 out of 6 of ones he could have been in before he passed. And he's not the main character in any of them, not even close to the main character in many of them. So this kind of also starts that trend off. Yeah, I would say it's a solid movie.
Yeah, and it's, again, as I might have mentioned in that review, it's like it's not what you'd expect. Hard Eight. It takes place in Reno and in Vegas, and you expect these kind of grand sweeping ensemble cast, and you're getting really just a really tight knit character study that revolves around like 4 characters.
Yeah.
So, and it's obviously it's pretty blatantly small budget, which is fine. It plays with that budget well, but it's obviously embryonic. Paul Thomas Anderson just starting out.
Right. And Sam, I don't remember if we did so these last few times we've done this, which was well over a year ago, which is crazy. Did we assign star ratings to each one of them?
Who knows? Who knows?
All right. Well, I'll ask an intern. I'll email one.
All right.
We might as well this time. Let's just do it this time. What would you give it, Party? Off the top of your head.
I would give it 3 stars out of 5.
Okay, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
Because I remember liking it. I just don't remember much of it,
Yeah. Yep. Fair enough. That's really all I have to say about Part 8. Do you want to move on to another movie, Sam?
Let's move on to The Year After, huh?
The Year After, one of the greatest movies of all time. One of my favorite movies of all time. One that I believe I've recommended on the show in our recommendation section. That is The Life of a Dreamer, The Days of a Business, and the Nights in Between. Boogie Nights. Sam, I love this movie. I know you really like this movie. So you go first. Talk about it before I just rave for an hour on it. So
fangirl over Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
God, this is a remarkable movie. It's first of all, I mean, what a cast. Wahlberg, Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds, Don Cheadle, John C. Reilly returning, William H. Macy, Heather Graham, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, and Philip Baker Hall also makes an appearance. I mean, it's an incredible ensemble cast that PTA was able to assemble. And the funny thing about Boogie Nights more than anything is that it was based on this like weird idea he had for a short film when he was younger. He made a short film called The Rise and Fall of Dirk Diggler or something like that back in 1988, which kind of inspired the premise of this movie, where you have Mark Wahlberg playing this young, somewhat naive, porn star. And PTA pulls no punches.
He does not.
About this life. I mean, the movie is disgusting and reassuring all at once. It reassures us about our own desires as human beings, and it also kind of desensitizes you and nauseates you with this culture of excess in every way, materialistically, sexually, morally. It's overwhelming to watch, and it's 2.5 hours of just pure cinema. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that this movie also just is awesome proof for my theory that every other decade sucks and every other decade is great. The odd number of decades are awesome, and the even number of decades are terrible. This is a fact. The 70s rocked, the 80s sucked. That's just what it comes down to. I think this movie, if you were to show someone how if somebody's confused, like, how do I make like a really well-structured 3-act movie? I think you'd point them to this movie. I mean, you have that first act where, like you said, everything's golden and it's awesome, and we transition into the second act where things start to go awry as Dirk Diggler finds out life isn't always grand in his chosen line of work. And then that third act where everything kind of comes together. But and I know you've mentioned this, Sam, but this movie is also, I mean, I have to assume Christopher Nolan got his idea of Inception from this movie. I mean, we have Mark Wahlberg playing Eddie Adams playing Dirk Diggler playing other characters. This is the groundwork for Inception.
It's it is incredibly meta. It's not incredibly meta. That's a bad way to put it. It's very subtly meta. Because the narrative flows so well that when you're watching it, it's not like Inception where you're just like, oh, what's going on now? What's going on now? It's like there are many scenes in there where, Mark Wahlberg is playing Eddie Adams and Eddie Adams is playing Dirk Diggler, and it's like it just makes sense. It flows, and then Dirk Diggler starts playing, porn characters, and it's like okay, this makes sense, But yeah, it's such a ambitious way to tell a story. It's obviously an incredibly taboo topic, and PTA was able to put together a cast for this. It's not like it was it's not like he was adapting some famous novel here. Like, it was this bizarre idea he had,
right? And
somehow the studio greenlit it, which is insane. But we're very happy they did.
No kidding. Yeah, this is where PTA really shows that he knows how to use a camera. That opening tracking shot is just fantastic. I probably rewatch that first scene once every couple months just because of how proficient it is technically. There's multiple dolly shots in this movie that are really tough to execute, but when they're done, they look fantastic, and Anderson does that to a T. This film, although based on porn stars, is oddly super relatable and really heartbreaking in some ways. You can't really relate to what Eddie Adams is doing, but you can relate to what he's feeling when things don't work out for him, as they're not wont to do. It's a masterwork. And honestly, the cast the cast makes this too, and their performances. William H. Macy, gosh, what a performance, and that character's great, and Don Cheadle even is awesome, and we see his struggles. It's not just Eddie Adams' struggles. We see all these characters struggle with their choices, which I think is relatable in that sense. And yeah, great, fantastic movie that everyone should see 28 times. So, and awesome Philip Seymour Hoffman performance. We're going to be saying that all night, but
incredible. I mean, there's something there to that scene where he confronts Mark Wahlberg about being in love with him
by his car.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Oh my God, it's so good.
And Julianne Moore, I mean, she's a mother to us all. So
in some ways. Yeah, did you know, Will, that Joaquin Phoenix was also offered the role of Eddie, but turned it down due to concerns about playing a porn star?
I did not know that, and that is funny. I don't know. What do you think about that? I'm just now learning of this. I'm processing.
I feel like he would be a little too young. You know, Joaquin is 5 years younger than Mark Wahlberg, I want to say.
Yeah. Wahlberg looked young at the time, though.
That is true. But originally, Anderson wanted Eddie to be played by Leonardo DiCaprio after seeing him in Basketball Diaries.
That wouldn't have been good.
Yeah.
I love Leo, but we dodged a bullet there.
And Leo would look very young. I mean, in 1995, that he was still doing, Romeo plus Juliet and stuff like that. Like, and the reason he couldn't do it is because of Titanic.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well,
Sam, you tell me, Titanic or Boogie Nights? Which one won Best Picture? So
the Academy is always right.
Right. We talked about that last week. So
they're always right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Also, I don't know. Sorry.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, I don't know who wrote the description even to the movie, but the description of the movie just flows so well. I mean, similar to the movie, but
sure.
Everything about this is just awesome.
Okay.
That's I mean, do you have any other thoughts on Boogie Nights?
I was gonna mention this interesting kind of behind the scenes thing with Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds apparently had serious qualms about being in this movie.
Yeah, I did know this.
When he saw the final cut, he was pretty pissed off about it. Which Reynolds did not get along with Anderson while filming. This is Wikipedia, if you've ever heard of it. Great resource. After seeing a rough cut of the film, Reynolds fired his agent for recommending it. Despite this, Reynolds won a Golden Globe Award and was nominated for an Academy Award for his performance. Later, Anderson wanted Reynolds to star in his next film, Magnolia, but Reynolds declined. In 2012, Reynolds denied rumors they disliked the film, calling it extraordinary and saying that his opinion of it has nothing to do with his relationship with Anderson. So really, he just hates Paul Thomas Anderson is what it comes down to. But I mean, that's funny because, Burt Reynolds gets overlooked in this movie, but he is perfect for that role.
He's really good, man. Everyone's really good in this. I think that's a testament to PTA's ability to get really raw and great performances out of his actors. I mean, how many performances has he directed that have been nominated for Oscars? I would say half dozen or more. So I mean, that's really impressive.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, gosh, Boogie Nights is just a clinic in how to make movies. And it just blows my mind that this is his second effort. And what's even crazier, you said this earlier, is how does a studio greenlight this? I mean, in today's day and age, this never happens. For one point, I mean, this would never get made, at least not by a new guy. I mean, this would be like Damien Chazelle going to someone 5 years ago and asking, "Hey, I got this idea." You know, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, PTA was what, like 25 years old when he directed this?
Right. I mean, he didn't even grow up in the 70s. Not really. I mean, he lived it, or he lived in the 70s, but I wouldn't say he grew up in them, you know?
We are like 5 years out from making Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
I mean,
pretty much. So, Sam, what are you gonna give Boogie Nights for a rating? We can move on.
I would say probably 4.5 out of 5. I initially had it at a 4. I don't remember why, because I didn't write a review about it. So I'll just round up 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, this is a perfect film, so it gets a perfect score from me.
Right on.
I can't remember if you. I think you watched this just a few days before me, and then came to school and told me you gotta watch this, and I went home and popped it on and loved it. So I think we watched it within a few days of each other too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think a certain teacher in both of our lives, he's like, Boogie Nights is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. And he goes, but I can't recommend it. We were still in high school at the time. I can't recommend it. I'm like, dude, I'm 18.
Yeah.
Because I still can't recommend it.
You know, I get where he or she is coming from, though.
Oh man.
So
yeah.
Let's Sam, let's move on to Magnolia.
Ooh, Magnolia.
Magnolia, I think, is probably, I could be wrong by saying this, but maybe his most divisive film. I don't know. It's over 3 hours.
That's possible.
I I love this movie, so don't get me wrong. Maybe Phantom Thread might be more divisive, or actually maybe Inherent Vice. I don't know.
Inherent Vice, probably.
Yeah. Divisive films, but Magnolia, regardless, I think most people do really enjoy this movie. I think the 3 hours can kind of take some people out of it, but there's so much happening in this movie that, for me personally, I don't know if I even noticed the 3 hour runtime, just because there's so many storylines that are going on that, you know, you're only at one for a little amount of time, and then you're moving on to something else. So I think it flows really nicely from one thing to the next, where that runtime almost disappears. But what are your thoughts on Magnolia?
Yeah, I think I summed this up well. I'm looking at my old reviews on this, and I said, look, like, Magnolia is undoubtedly impressive from a narrative level, and showcases Anderson's underrated abilities as a screenwriter. But going into this, I expected it to be one of those linear back-to-back vignette pieces that sort of just space out the narratives, and then that gives us time to kind of think through each one and what it means. But then I was surprised to find that the stories and the narrative lines were all interconnected.
Yeah.
And they're all happening at the same time, which logistically is insanely impressive. Like, that's very hard to do. But the issue is that we're left with this kind of like draw your own conclusions kind of attitude about each of the characters' fates at the end, which I guess is the only logistical way to end a thing like this. But I wrote that with about 9 concurring storylines competing for the viewer's attention, it's difficult to satisfyingly resolve all of the characters' arches, which is true. Like, I mean, it's not that this is not the kind of movie where we have, you know, a main character or two, and then supporting characters. It's not quite like that. It's like we have like 9 main characters,
Yeah.
and we follow all of them, and we empathize and we sympathize and we root for all of them, but they all are competing for our attention, which
Right.
Magnolia is one of those movies. There's no way to not make it, 3 hours long. Like, because there's just so much. It's so ambitious. And it's, I suppose that you could say it makes sense, given the context of his career. Boogie Nights is this sleeper hit that absolutely enthralls audiences and critics alike. And then
Sure.
PTA takes that as a license to be like, let's get out there. Let's let me make this.
He says, I'm gonna do some weird stuff now. Yeah, you're right.
What are your thoughts on this? Because you're a little higher on me than I am, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. Gosh, Magnolia is again just an all around great auteur effort. I think you might have said it already, but this is a great written movie as well. It's very daunting. I know probably not everyone listening has written a screenplay before like PTA has, but it's very daunting to balance one character and what they're doing and how they're feeling, much less as many as he's doing in Magnolia. So Sam, you say it's sometimes it's too much, and you might be right, correct? Because that's just such a overwhelming task to try to do. If this movie does anything wrong, maybe it has one or two characters that could have been cut, but I don't think I would have, but I could hear an argument for that. With so many characters doing things, it's hard to balance them from a script perspective, from a screenwriting perspective. But I think this is where he really shines, is that he is even remotely able to do this. Because not the average writer would be able to do this. It's more if you told someone, okay, here you go, you got these characters, go write a screenplay. Most people, I assume, would just give up because it'd be impossible.
Yeah, but most writers wouldn't even attempt this.
Agreed.
So
You're right. So I think that's where PTA really shines here, is his ability to write. Which not to say that it isn't showcased in Hard Eight and Boogie Nights, but I think it's really put on the forefront here. And then, he really delves into. I think he delves into his stylistic signatures almost in this movie. He does a lot. I mentioned a lot of camera work in Boogie Nights. He does a lot more than just camera work in Magnolia. In terms of editing and such, with so many characters, the editing bay with so many characters can be a really fun thing to do, with splicing things together. So I think in terms of those, it succeeds greatly, and is really entertaining too. I think. I kind of mentioned that earlier, but I don't think it drags much. I don't think, in my opinion, it ever stays with one character too long. When you're getting a little tired of someone, we typically move on. Oddly enough, the only character I would say that might be on screen too much might be Tom Cruise's character, which is odd. But I'd hear an argument. I wouldn't make it. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I love this movie.
yeah, I think you're right in some sense. It's extremely. My biggest qualm with it is really just that it could be like 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah, it could be.
You could tear this apart and come out with 3 or 4 pretty decent different movies. And it seems like PTA, this is really getting at it now, is it seems like PTA went out trying to make the most ambitious movie he could.
Sure.
Which that's why when I watch it, I'm not bored because I'm awestruck. I'm awestruck by it. But I really feel like he went out to make the most ambitious movie possible. And it's not like Boogie Nights where it's like, hey, I have this really great idea for a movie. By the way, it's going to be very ambitious. It's more the reverse. It's like, I want to make something really, really ambitious. Let me come up with a great idea for it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't think it's a failed experiment by any means. I just think it's kind of an oddity, kind of a strange turn for PTA to take. Which he's no stranger to strange turns because he's Paul
true.
Thomas Anderson. But
Right.
You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think this one of any that are at my top of my Paul Thomas Anderson ranking, this would be the one where if somebody was like, gosh, I hate Magnolia, I'd say, okay, all right. I wouldn't agree with them, but I could get it. I get it.
Okay.
Sam, I'm gonna go 4.5, man. Great movie. What's your?
I'm gonna put it at 3.5.
Okay.
Out of 5.
All right. Cool.
It's not even close to my favorite PTA, but it's
Still solid.
certainly a decent, a solid film. Solid.
All right, moving on to his next film, which I assume you have a lot of thoughts on. That is Punch Drunk Love, starring Adam Sandler. Yeah, I know you love this one. Go to town, man.
Oh, I love this movie. I think I saw this after Uncut Gems. That would make sense. And
I'm sure I did too.
Yeah, I mean, Uncut Gems is where I really realized that Sandler had some serious acting abilities. And then I saw this, and it blew me away. Sandler's performance really blew me away. Particularly the birthday party scene where he smashes the sliding glass door. Just a remarkable piece of acting in my book. Like, I felt that.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. It's complex. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. And really that can be credited to PTA's writing. I mean, everything Sandler says, he has these kind of quasi monologues throughout it, and it's like, oh my God, this is perfectly written on several different levels, particularly emotionally.
I just have one question for you real quick, Sam.
Yeah.
So Barry Egan in Punch Drunk Love or Hubie Dubois in Hubie Halloween? Which one?
Hubie Dubois
you
is
can
a
only
much
choose
more
one. You can only choose
He's a
one.
much more complicated man. I mean, come on.
Just wait for the Hubie Hanukkah, man. Just wait for Hubie Hanukkah. And
is that coming?
No, I don't think so. But
please say that's coming.
Well, I'm writing the screenplay now. Don't worry about it. So,
I don't know if you could do it justice. I mean, but seriously, I'm being serious here. Like, that does display Sandler's range and attitude incredibly. Is the fact that he can do something like Hubie Halloween some 20 years after Punch Drunk Love. Like, oh my God. But yeah, Punch Drunk Love is brilliant. Brilliantly written. And I'm hitting on the dialogue specifically, but I mean, the storyline here too is just very well done. It's like this, it's just this basic, like, slice of life, comedy, like rom-com, but also but there's also this like undergirding violent streak. The character played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, obviously. So I'm a big fan of Punch Drunk Love. It's probably dare I say, probably the best rom-com I've ever seen in my life, if you can even call it that. Truly just a brilliant movie.
You're right. And the funniest thing about this movie, watching it for the first time, and I got about 20 minutes into it. We've mostly just been at his place of business, and about 20 minutes in, I kind of like blinked my eyes a couple of times and thought, "Holy crap, I'm watching a movie right now!" Like this just looks. You lose yourself in this movie, and I think a lot of that is due to, again, the relatability of Sandler's character in senses, and I think PTA is, a lot of his movies are rooted to, he's really interested in people, and he's interested in people's emotions and feelings and how they interact with other people. We see that a lot in Magnolia and Boogie Nights as well, and then it's really put on the forefront in Punch Drunk Love. Is that he wants to study people, and it's an excellent study, a great character study, one that definitely gets lost in the shuffle of PTA's filmography, but definitely shouldn't. So,
No, definitely not. Yeah, I mean. So I'm gonna give Punch Drunk Love like 4.5 stars out of 5.
Good, man.
I really love this movie.
Actually, do you think this or Uncut Gems is a better performance for Sandler?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably, you could say it's probably his best performance if you want to be.
You think it's better than Uncut Gems? Okay.
I think it probably is. They're two very different characters, obviously.
I think this is tougher.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. And Sandler has this disposition that works for this character specifically, whereas I think he could have, the Safdies could have cast other actors in Uncut Gems as Howard Ratner. Sure. I think Punch Drunk Love has a particular sensibility to it that Sandler kind of fits into.
Correct. You said 4.5. I'll go 4. I'm a little lower than you, but still, I mean, fantastic movie. And I'm starting to think this Paul Thomas Anderson guy is a good filmmaker. So,
I don't know.
I'm not sold yet, but we'll see. We go from 2002 to his longest hiatus yet, to 2007's There Will Be Blood. There Will Be Blood, Sam. When you look up the greatest movies of all time, There Will Be Blood probably sits somewhere in the top 20s, top 20, top 30 for, I don't know, lists made by, not by people necessarily, but like, I don't, like a companies. I don't know, like
an IMDb. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Perfect example. IMDb, like Watch Mojo, definitely probably has it in their top 30 or whatever. So knowing that, what do you think of There Will Be Blood?
I would mention too, like you think about that top 20 or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
Whatever length you want to say. It's probably, There Will Be Blood is probably the newest addition to that top 20, top 30, or one of the newest, 2007.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know.
You could say
12 Years a Slave maybe might be in there.
12 Years a Slave, perhaps.
Shape of Water.
Maybe Moonlight.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you're probably right.
Whiplash. Whiplash is probably a big one.
Okay. Good point.
But There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men came out the same year, actually filmed in some of the same locations, which is interesting little factoid.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, there was actually I think they were shooting No Country for Old Men out in the desert, and they had to shoot like the other direction than what they were planning because they were doing the scene of when the oil rig bursts into flames, like just like a mile away, so there were like smoke in the
horizon,
in the air and everything. It was super hazy.
That's cool. I did not
so
know
they had
that.
to shoot the other direction. So kind of like, I really think of these two movies as like almost like, Cain and Abel, like just tumultuous brothers. They were made the same year and both in serious contention, and rightfully so, to be Best Picture winners, and indeed one of the best movies ever made. So, but There Will Be Blood is conceptually just an incredible start. I mean, it's kind of historically based, sort of, but it's an invented character. It's very interesting given the time in the mid 2000s that PTA decided to go for like a work of historical fiction and invent this character, Daniel Plainview, who's essentially just this ruthless tycoon. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant character interplay here between him and Eli Sunday. And just a remarkable film that sums up man and God and everything in between. Phenomenal. What were your first reactions with There Will Be Blood?
Yeah, I mean, this is a prime example of Daniel Day-Lewis, just Daniel Day-Lewising everywhere. Very method, very awesome. Mm-hmm. And, we also get the discovery of Paul Dano, who I love, and I'm pretty sure you do as well. Great actor in his own right. This is really a performance-driven movie. If either one of those two specifically, but mostly even Daniel Plainview. If that character isn't pulled off, obviously this movie's terrible. So Day-Lewis is the perfect man to do the job. And you're right. This movie really embodies capitalism and the descent of man into madness and greed. And we really see that put to screen super effectively. From him and his son really trying to do this together to I've abandoned my child. And I wouldn't argue with anyone who says it's their favorite movie or the best movie. So There Will Be Blood is awesome, man. And technically proficient like all of his other movies. So if we weren't already convinced that PTA could make a film, I think this one did it.
No, I mean, he could make this movie and he would be considered, he could make only this movie and he'd still be considered one of the greatest filmmakers to ever live.
Right.
I mean, that's how impactful it is. So yeah, we're big fans.
And yeah, no kidding. I want to ask you, Sam, if this wasn't made in this year, of the past, we'll just say 20 best pictures. How many are better than this one? I'm curious. I'll read them off for you, and I want to see how many would have lost to it. Okay.
Okay.
Nomadland, Parasite, Green Book, Shape of Water, Moonlight. Would any of those have beat it for you?
No.
Spotlight, Birdman, 12 Years a Slave, Argo, The Artist.
No.
The King's Speech, The Hurt Locker, Slumdog Millionaire, No Country, The Departed.
No, none of those. Well, except No Country,
Other than
obviously.
No Country.
But we've
Sure.
talked about that, yeah.
Crash, $1 Million Baby, Lord of the Rings, Chicago, A Beautiful Mind.
No.
So there you go. I mean, that's until 2001, 20 years. It's your number 2, I guess, of those. So I think that just shows you how great this movie really is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. I think you're probably on the same page with me there. I don't know if you have one that beats it.
I think I like Moonlight more than it, but it'd be a coin flip. It'd be so close.
Sure.
That'd be the only one that would touch it. 12 Years a Slave might be behind it, right behind it, but I think there's even a pretty sizable gap there. So, but I haven't seen 12 Years a Slave. I just voted for it.
Right. As any good Academy member would.
You got to do your due diligence and vote for the one you think is the best.
Stop arguing, fall in line, vote for 12 Years a Slave already. All right.
Sam, how many stars? I'm gonna do 4.5 again.
4.5 is the proper rating.
I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, so good. 4.5.
We can move into something that is not 4.5 territory right now.
Yeah, and that is The Master next? Or am I just crazy?
You might be crazy because that's 2013, ain't it? Ain't it?
What will be next?
But I think it is.
Well, I hate to tell you, Sam, but I'm gonna sound like a broken record again when we get to star ratings. So,
what? No way. All
yeah.
right. Okay. All right.
Just you wait. The Master, go.
The Master is hypnotic. It's I had a certain teacher who is PTA obsessed that we touched on before. He said The Master is Paul Thomas Anderson at his most indulgent. I would disagree because, as I said before, Magnolia is incredibly indulgent. The Master is just the kind of film that Paul Thomas Anderson fantasizes about. This is definitely, I would say this movie separates the men from the boys in terms of PTA fandom. That's probably a good way to put it. It's not the most patient movie in that, like, it's not gonna like wait around for you to appreciate. Like, it's just gonna keep going, which I guess I kind of like about it. Again, kind of a bizarre premise, sort of inspired by Scientology. This actually kickstarted kind of my interest in Scientology and me being a card-carrying member today, of course.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and now your complete devotion. So,
and now my absolute devotion to LRH and everything. So
yeah. So which phase are you on now?
I'm on level 7.
Nice, dude. Good.
I'm only in like $200,000. So
that's good.
But yeah, The Master is. We get some incredible performances here, right?
Oh my gosh.
The auditing scene,
that's
scene. What do you call that?
I'll just say it now. That's a top 5 scene of all time for me.
Largely considered,
one of my favorite scenes of all time.
One of the world's most favorite scenes of all time. Like it's considered, like, they show that in acting classes. Like, this is how to
act. Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely remarkable. Philip Seymour Hoffman gives a career-defining performance, as does Joaquin Phoenix, as does Amy Adams. While we're at it,
it's chock full of incredible performances.
I don't know what more you would want out of it, except perhaps some clarity. But what are your thoughts, Will?
I've used this word earlier, but this is a clinic in acting, man. I mean, this is the movie you show to aspiring actors to tell them what is a good performance. I think Joaquin's performance as Freddie Quill is, I would probably like to argue that it's the best performance of the 21st century. I think I could make that argument. And the fact that he didn't win the Oscar is just it blows my mind.
That one is mind blowing to me.
Everyone will just, Daniel Day-Lewis and Lincoln. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, like
It blows my mind that Joaquin has an Oscar for Joker, but not for The Master.
Isn't that remarkable?
It doesn't make sense.
Incredible.
We live in a weird world. So
Todd Phillips, PTA. Todd Phillips, PTA.
Yeah. Well, Todd Phillips. So that. Oh, stay tuned, Sam. Don't spoil next week's episode too quickly. I mean, come on. I got a lot of thoughts on Hangover Part 3. All right. No. Yeah, Joaquin is great, and his character is written so well as a broken individual, who is willing to take the bait that Philip Seymour Hoffman's character Lancaster Dodd gives him, and the rest of the cast too. I mean, this is the ascension of Jesse Plemons, and Amy Adams, obviously, and Laura Dern's great, and Rami Malek not playing a Queen band member is good.
That's ideal. Yeah.
Yes.
Although underutilized, because I feel that both Jesse Plemons and Rami Malek kind of are just there, kind of fade into the background.
Sure.
Honestly,
Okay.
it's really just this core three of Joaquin, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Amy Adams.
You're right. I think narratively it's super sound, and that might be its weakest aspect, which is funny. That the story itself is super sound, but might be the weakest aspect of the movie.
Yeah.
The Master is a master class. I honestly didn't even intend to say that, but hey,
Wow.
So great film. And There Will Be Blood obviously does this, but this is kind of PTA's, I don't know, like attempt to try to woo the Academy, which is funny. Then he kind of again shies away from that in his next film, but unsuccessful, likely due to its subject matter and its ability to be understood, like you said. But I really don't mind that it's confusing. We kind of see this whole story through Freddie Quill's eyes, and this dude has a lot of issues. So we're gonna have a lot of issues watching it. But Sam, 4.5. I don't care.
All right, well, fine. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's incredibly indulgent in some respects. It's very
Sure.
It really hits you over the head, and yet it doesn't wait around for you to meditate on it, I feel. And it's a very long film as well. It's 2.5 hours, which is fine, but again, we have really a 3-piece cast that we're kind of paying attention to.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a little confusing. It's not as confusing as this next movie we will be talking about.
I will say real quick, Sam, I don't know if you've seen this The Master twice, but on a rewatch, it serves. I had originally given it, I think, like a 3.5 or 4, and bumped it up a lot on a rewatch. But we can move on to the movie you were just about to tease. So go ahead.
It moves a lot faster on the rewatch. I did see it twice.
You have? Okay.
Yes.
Good.
I could do with a rewatch for this next movie, though. Inherent Vice.
I'm good with no rewatch, to be honest.
Well, okay, so we talk about some of the greatest Letterboxd comments of all time.
I love this story.
What I can't pull it up, but I think I have it memorized. It's like every ticket of Inherent Vice should come with either a second ticket for Inherent Vice or a joint. You will need one of them to understand the movie.
Yeah. You either have to see it twice or be high in order to feel like you understand it, which is fantastic. You might be right with a second rewatch. I've only seen it once. When watching it, I'm someone who needs to. I really try to understand what's going on, and I try to think what's going to happen in this. And Inherent Vice, I'm sitting here watching this movie, and I'm doing that. I'm trying to understand it, and it really is impossible. It's not doable. You can't understand this movie. I should have just given up, but I kept trying to understand it, which frustrated me. And I think with that frustration, I liked it a little less than I probably would have if I had just given up and just sat and relaxed and watched it. Honestly, I think that's really my thought. I really should give it another watch. I think Joaquin's great, and I think that character Doc is awesome as well. But it's just so hard to get that I was kind of out on it when I watched it. I still enjoyed it for the most part, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean it's annoying too because I really love the theme. I mentioned before I'm really into noir. I love that, and I mean West Coast noir is kind of flipping that genre on its head because when you think noir, you think New York, you think Boston. So LA kind of in the 70s too. So
great time period.
We're not talking about the golden age. We're not talking about Chinatown. We're talking about the 70s, which is when things got weird and confusing. And that's what this movie is, weird and confusing. And it's not the kind of confusing like plot lines confusing, like how did this happen? It's not like Tenet confusing. It's like just there's something there, but you have no strands to put together. There's no interconnecting storylines. There's not missing links. It's like you don't even have links anymore. It just all feels like a hallucination. It's really impossible to describe, and it is unlike anything I've ever seen in that respect. I can't.
Correct.
I haven't been confused by a movie the way I have been confused by Inherent Vice. I will say that about it.
Yeah, Inherent Vice is really like we meet Joaquin's character Doc, and then PTA just says go is essentially what happens. And actually, I really have no thoughts on this because if you told me if you asked me to describe what happens in this movie, I wouldn't be able to tell you anything, to be honest with you. I don't remember much. I think because of that frustration, I blocked it out, honestly. But I do remember enjoying parts, and it's well acted and well shot, and all the PTA basics. But
yeah,
any other Inherent Vice thoughts, Sam?
Not really. I don't have much to say about this.
Neither do I. I'm gonna go 3.5, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I think I gave it 3.5, and that's probably fair.
Yeah.
I think that's about right.
All right, Sam. Going into our final one. Phantom Thread. Phantom Thread. I think
Phantom Thread, man.
Yeah, I think Phantom Thread is really boring. To start off.
I quite agree.
I think on the surface, it doesn't look like it's saying much. Underneath it, it really is an odd romantic comedy. It more on the romance side and less on the comedy, but almost like a romantic drama D. Like it's very light on the comedy, but it's there. It is a very touching romance story of this artist who just happens to be a dressmaker and his significant other. But boy, it's boring. Again, PTA is analyzing people here and analyzing relationships, which is great, but It needs some flair. It needs something. What do you think, Sam?
It's just, it's almost like PTA is laughing at us.
Sure.
It kind of felt that way. Like he's just like, you were expecting so much from me, and I'm just gonna make this small little film about a dressmaker. And that's the thing. Like it feels small. It just feels kind of unimaginative. And that's not to say that there's powerful emotions that can be communicated through it. It's just, it just seems under ambitious, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Anyone could have directed this movie, it seems to me. It's not a bad film, but I found it incredibly boring.
Yeah.
It's short by PTA standards. It's only 130 minutes, but it really drags, man. Like it, you feel that runtime.
This is the last one I saw at PTA, and I watched it and I kind of thought, oh boy, this could end. And I don't feel that way for most of Paul Thomas Anderson movies. So this one was a letdown and a slight bummer. I think it could serve for a rewatch as well, but I don't know. Maybe I'll never get there. Also, just such an odd, and who knows, maybe Day-Lewis comes back, but what an odd movie to go out on.
Yeah.
And he's done this. I get that. He's only done, I mean, There Will Be Blood, Lincoln, and this, Phantom Thread, are his last three movies, which happen to be from a span of 2007 to 2017. So, I mean, he's no stranger to disappearing for a while, but he did say he's retiring after this. So, I don't know. Weird one to go out on. Would love to see him come back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he might have one more in him. Just something, you know, you get a Anderson or a Spielberg or a Scorsese, you know, giving you a call. You know, it's quite possible that he's going to be in something.
It's called Hayes. It's the Rutherford B. Hayes biopic. He just does presidents. You know.
We wanted to make a president biopic for every president, though, didn't we? Do you remember that project?
Yeah. Gosh, we used to.
It's still on the back burner.
Yeah, it is. Grover Cleveland gets 2 bits in it. It's awesome.
Oh, I can't wait. And DDL is going to play all.
Oh, he's all
46 of them.
Yeah. So you know he's going to have to do a major physical change for quite a few of them. I mean, but
he's up to the challenge. We have to film like every few months for each scene because you know we got to give him time to gain and lose the weight.
Yeah. It's going to be weird when he's Kennedy because Kennedy is a lot younger than he is, but we'll see.
Yeah. And there's a little controversy about him playing Obama, but he can pull it
but off. He says it'll make sense. He says it'll make sense when we get there. So just wait. That's what he says.
Anyway, again, I don't have much to say about Phantom Thread. I
don't either.
I was kind of bored by this movie.
Yeah, so was I. I'm gonna go 3 stars. It's close to 2.5 as well, but I'll go 3.
Okay.
Sam, let's quick just go through our ranking, if you have yours pulled up.
Sure.
Just go through yours right now.
You want to go from the bottom to the top?
Go from 8 to 1. 8 to 1.
Okay, 8 to 1. Number 8, I'm gonna put where we started. Hard 8 at number 8. It just fits.
Good.
Kind of a forgettable movie in my mind, by PTA standards, but well done, worth checking out if you're going on a PTA binge anyway. Similarly, at number 7, we got Phantom Thread. Kind of only worth seeing if you want to see them all just for completion.
Agreed.
Number 6, I got Inherent Vice. Confusing. Number 5, Magnolia. Impressive and almost too impressive. Number 4, we got The Master. And then number 3, we have Boogie Nights. actually. Number 2, Punch Drunk Love, because I'm in love with it. And number 1, There Will Be Blood, because it's one of the greatest movies ever made. How about you, Will?
Good, man. That's a good list. I like it. I'm gonna start at number 8 with where we left off with Phantom Thread. Okay. And I'll go quickly here. I'll move on right to Hard 8 at number 7. And then Inherent Vice at number 6. Those are kind of all low tier to me. Inherent Vice might be a little above those bottom 2. Then number 5 is Punch Drunk Love, and that's kind of in a tier of its own, in my opinion. Then we have at number 4, There Will Be Blood. Number 3, The Master. Those are kind of in it. And then number 2, Magnolia. Those 3 are in a tier of their own as well.
Wow.
And then number 1, Boogie Nights, is also in a tier far above the rest. So Phantom Thread, Hard 8, Inherent Vice, Punch Drunk Love, There Will Be Blood, The Master, Magnolia, Boogie Nights. And Sam, we got a new one coming out this year, probably more likely next year. Soggy Bottom. Real quick, just hit me with an anticipation for it, because we've been here forever.
Oh boy, I don't know what to think.
What?
Who knows?
I'll ask you this. What movie do you think this is going to most likely resemble?
I'm gonna say it's gonna look like it's actually gonna look like The Master in a strange way.
Okay.
Because it's the 70s, it's gonna be confusing, but it's also going to be intimate. Whereas Inherent Vice kind of has this ensemble cast, and there's a lot of people drifting in and out of your consciousness. The Master is focused. It's a family drama. It's going to look something like that, but it's still going to be hypnotic. What do you think? I think
narratively and kind of the themes, I think it's going to represent Boogie Nights a lot. We have a kid which seems like a coming of age story with a mentor above him in Bradley Cooper's character. I think thematically it'll have a lot of Boogie Nights in it. I think stylistically you're right with The Master. I think PTA likes that style in The Master. So I think we're in agreement there. Cool. Screw it, I'll do it. Sam, what's what would you give a star rating to PTA? Weird question.
I mean, if there's a 5-star director, it's
2.5.
I mean,
Okay, okay. We're way out.
2.5. I mean, sure. No, seriously, he's one of the greatest to ever live.
Yeah, he's the.
He's not even done living yet.
He's the goods.
How about you? I mean,
yeah,
I guess
4.5, 5. He's nearly perfect in everything he does. So, let's we people have indulged us for far too long, so we're sorry for our ridiculousness and foolishness. But Sam, you seemed really excited about your recommend earlier. What do you got?
And then you went and spoiled it. But talk radio, man. You got to check out this movie, Talk Radio. My God.
Shoot,
this guy, what's his name? Like, I don't know. He kind of reminds me of Jerry Seinfeld, but like a dark version of Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
He's like I don't know. He's like Jerry Seinfeld's evil twin. That's the only way I can describe it. This guy Eric Bogosian, who also shows up
performance in Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems, yes, very good performance. It's definitely worth checking out. It's kind of one of these weird offshoot Oliver Stone movies from the 80s, but it's excellent, and I think it says a lot. So check out Talk Radio.
Great voice too. Eric Bogosian has super awesome radio voice, and it does make you wonder, why is this movie not more talked about, because it is very good. Good recommend, man. I teased mine kind of last week. I have a series of podcasts that I'm going to be recommending from the production studio Q Code. I got 3. The first one I'm going to recommend is the first one I listened to and really enjoyed. It's called From Now. And Q Code does this really cool thing. They're serialistic podcasts. They're all about, 6 to 8 episodes, and they're about 3 to 4 hours in length. They do this thing Q Code does. It's in their slogan, and I always blank on the first sentence of their slogan, but it's like amazing stories you'll love, and then it's like actors you already love. So essentially, they have actors who in these podcasts. So in this first one that I'm recommending, From Now, out on all podcast platforms, stars Richard Madden and Brian Cox. It's really good. It's about essentially Richard Madden and Brian Cox are twins. However, one of them went on this space expedition and never returns, but he eventually does come back 30 years later, not aging a day. And they kind of got to figure out what happened. So yeah, check out From Now on Q Code. But Sam, until next time when we are talking about Mr. M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's Old, where can I find you on Letterboxd?
You can find me on letterboxd.com/sjdierberger. And where can I find you, Will?
Yes, and everyone go blow up Sam's comments on PTA, his
Blow
rank,
him up, baby.
and tell him how wrong he is.
Sure.
You can find me on Letterboxd at willspalding, and you can find us at anchor.fm/thosefilmnerds and thosefilmnerds.weebly.com and thosefilmnerds on all podcast platforms and YouTube, and thosefilmnerds on Instagram and Gmails and everything like that. Yeah. Thank you for listening. And Sam, until next time.
Keep watching movies, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you.